Save the city streets, feed the hungry mouths. Ain't no Moses on the beach, Jesus on the shroud. Save the little people from the corporate culture crowd.
My husband and I actually have criminal charges pending right now against us.
Oh. That's awful.
It is. What happened was we got in the middle of, we just happened to be living in the middle of this feud that happened in our neighborhood. One guy stole something from another guy in the neighborhood, and somehow while the cops were out, something implicated our house. And so they got a warrant. They broke down the door at 12:30 in the morning. We weren't home, and they came in and they found my little garden in the very back, which was a 2x4 tray, hydro tray of plants that were about this tall. And there was 29 of them altogether. And even though I was legal for them, we weren't home. And so they took them. They claimed that they had no idea that there was medical cards registered to the house, even though they have pictures and evidence of a check being sent to the state and other Compassion Club cards and things like that. The following day I called, said, you know, you guys took my legal plants, you know, this is kind of the situation surrounding it. I can bring you my cards if you want them. And the guy on the phone said, the cop on the phone, said, no, we're not going to be proceeding at this point because you say that you have your cards. So okay, well, I left my number with him. I left my attorney's number with him. If anything changes, let us know. We didn't hear anything. We were in the middle of a move to Lansing at that time, so we moved to Lansing. And so in January, we never heard anything again. In January, my husband was riding in a car with somebody who had a loud muffler, got pulled over, and the cop asked for his ID to just check who he was and that kind of thing. And that's when we learned that he had a warrant and went to jail that night for charges pending out of Oakland County from that raid. While in jail, they told him that they had a warrant for me as well. And ever since then, we've been kind of going through this. We're both being charged with a 7-year felony, delivery and manufacture of 5 to 45 kilograms. So.
How in the world did it get to that? Do you have any idea?
I don't. I mean, we were legal for them, and I offered the information, and they didn't want to hear it then. And ever since we've been in court now, they don't want to hear it. We try to bring it up that we are card holders. We've been card holders. And when do I get a chance to show you that we have our cards? And now is not the time. That's what we keep hearing. Now is not the time. So in the meantime, we are paying a ton of money, going to court date after court date after court date, and they still have not seen that we had valid cards for that time frame.
So they are saying that you don't, or they don't care?
They don't care.
Ah. And have you been arraigned? Have you been indicted?
Yeah,
where are you in the process?
Right now we have, trial is on the books. Our trial is July 15th. Before trial we have to put in motions. We're putting in a motion to dismiss based on the search warrant, and a motion to dismiss based on Section 4 of the Medical Marijuana Act. And next week, sorry, not next week, on May 28th, there's a bond review hearing for my husband. What they're saying, when he was first arraigned, they told him that, yes, I know you're a medical marijuana patient, and I'm still gonna make you drug test. Don't think I'm crazy, she said, but take in your medical marijuana card into the drug testing facility, show them that you have it, and you'll be all fine. Then it went to another judge, and that judge wanted to violate him from his bond because he was dropping dirty for marijuana. Well, when they got up to start presenting their argument, then the judge said, never mind, I don't want to hear it. You can go argue that in circuit court. So then we went to circuit court, and it was never brought up the first or second time we were there. All of a sudden we get a notice in the mail that says the judge wants to review the bond because he does not agree with the medical marijuana. So this bond hearing that's coming up on the 28th is so that the judge can tell him he cannot use his medical marijuana while he's on bond. And it's very problematic because I haven't been using my medical marijuana while I'm on bond. Mine is not life-threatening. I have MS. He's got epilepsy, and every one of his seizures are grand mal tonic-clonic seizures and produce brain damage every single time. And so all it needs to happen is it damages the right part of the brain and he can no longer function.
I got written medical marijuana because I have epilepsy. And in my couple of years of taking the medical marijuana, I've stopped my seizures, which is more than I could have ever asked for or prayed for. But also, while doing that, what I found is I was able to reduce every other prescription. I no longer today take any prescription other than the medical marijuana. When I'm sick, I do take pellets I get at the health food store. That seems to do the trick for me. It's a common way of treating myself, and I've found it's the best way. Again, at one point I was on over 30 prescriptions a day. I was treated by what I would think were some of the best medical facilities and some of the best doctors in the state. And they were unable to stop these conditions. And while doing the medical marijuana for my epilepsy, like I said, one by one I reduced every other prescription. One by one I stopped every other prescription. Thank you for your time.
I was a hard card holding patient months before the incident ever happened. So this isn't a, and then to clarify a little bit further, the doctor that signed my certification, which is for epilepsy, which was a labeled condition, and the doctor that signed my certification was my primary care physician for over a year. He wrote me Keppra anti-seizure medication, he wrote me Ultram for pain, Vicodin for pain, sent me for x-rays, admitted me to the hospital on a different occasion. It was definitely a bona fide doctor-patient relationship. There's no hole. As many times as I try to look at it, I've done everything that I could have ever imagined to try to protect myself, even reading the law and understanding it.
Before he started taking medical marijuana, he was on up to 25 or 26 different medications a day. And that was 1 or 2 anti-epileptics, and then they caused side effects, so they needed to add more prescriptions to that. And then those ones caused side effects, so then there's more prescriptions on top of that. And I have a video on YouTube actually that shows what he was like on those medications. At the time he was a cigarette smoker and he was trying to roll a cigarette. And the video goes for about 5 minutes and he just cannot, he's nodding off, he's very lethargic, can't even get those simple tasks done.
And how many children do you have?
We have 5 together.
Wow!
He's got 3 from another marriage, I've got 1 from another marriage, and then while all this started in January, I was pregnant and had the baby in February.
Wow. So you would effectively be put out of business overnight if this, in the worst possible case.
Yes. My husband has a couple felonies from when he was younger, so he's not allowed to be a caregiver anymore as of April 1st. I have never been in trouble before, so I can still be a caregiver. Our business is providing medicine to people across the state. We make edibles, we make tinctures, we make anything that's non-smokable, and we often focus on things that don't even cause a high. We focus on things like CBD medicine that is purely medicinal, and if we were to get convicted, excuse me, we wouldn't be able to do this anymore. It's the only business that we have that supports our family, and a lot of people don't have anywhere else to turn to get those kind of medicines, and we'd have to stop.
Somebody like myself who has the conditions I have to use marijuana every day to not have seizures, and that is, you know, directly against a lot of corporate or, you know, even other jobs. So, you know, I had friends. I used to be in the automotive industry for a long time. I worked as a service advisor, master mechanic, service manager at a car dealership. I did well with that, and after I developed all these seizures and problems, I couldn't even have a friend that owned a car dealership wouldn't even employ me, just because of the liability behind it. So somebody like me that would have to use marijuana in order to be able to have a conversation or do a job can then not do that same job because they use marijuana. So it really is a double-edged sword, but that was the advantage I seen with the cottage industry, is that there wouldn't be so many regulations, and it wouldn't be who can buy their position in the industry. It would be a creative process. It would be back to the way, you know, a lot of us think America works, and everyone would have a fair shot at it and those kind of things. My first court date, when I went in, I was appointed a court-appointed attorney, and I figured, you know, if I was ever involved in serious problems, I would have to retain an attorney. But I figured this wasn't really a serious problem. This was a clerical error. What I had to do was I had to get the correct information that I had at home, and I had to provide that to the court and to the police. And then I figured that's just the end of it. That's, you know, this process is spelled out in the law. Shall be dismissed. So I went through and I went home and I got copies and I took everything in and I sat down with the court-appointed attorney and said, this is what I've got to submit. And she said, well, this is a copy on your application. This isn't the doctor's original signature. It's a photocopy of his original signature. I explained to her the original signature was sent into the state with the original paperwork, and that's how I got the card. So I no longer have the original doctor signature because the state has that, and I have a card in replacement of that. So I showed her the card and everything. She said, no, that's not going to work, and the department isn't going to release your records to us. You're just going to have to take a plea. I should be able to get you a pretty good deal if you just want to do probation. And then she pulled out a file that she immediately started filling out, and some of it was already pre-filled out as to what kind of plea I was going to do and how I was going to waive all my rights and just go ahead and proceed with this. I explained to her that I was not going to do that. You know, that's the biggest thing I can say from someone who, you know, had smoked marijuana long before there was a law as a recreational user, or, you know, even using it medicinally without knowing it. I still have 10 to 1 would be the ratio of people I know. 10 people would smoke marijuana that do not have a card and have absolutely no interest in getting a card, compared to every one person I know that bothers to go through the extensive process, fill out the paperwork, want their name and address turned in, and go through a doctor and risk, you know, all those other things like that to be labeled. You know, it doesn't seem like something most people would want to do unless they were sure about it.
This is one of those disastrous cases that the law that the citizens voted on, 64% in favor of, was supposed to solve. So that you wouldn't even face charges, so that you wouldn't have to spend all this money on attorneys. No one's giving you any help with this. That's astounding to me. How did no explanation from anybody?
Nope. No, and that was my thought, is the people's intent was for sick people to not get in trouble for this. And here we are, we're getting in trouble. You know, every day.
You did everything right. Now, 29 plants is within the limit. You're allowed to have 16 apiece, is that right?
12 apiece.
I'm sorry, 12 apiece.
Yep, and I wasn't a patient at the time, but I had 3 patients under me. I was a caregiver.
I see. Okay.
So
you were way under the limit. And these are not federal charges, because we do know that the conflict right now is the confusion about the federal law.
Right. Right. Nope, these are not federal charges. They're just county charges.
Have you been concerned, though, that being active and being politically visible, is that going to help you or hurt you? Do you worry about that?
I I believe that it will be helpful. The more people that know what's going on, I think the more people will be outraged. And the fact of the matter is these judges and these prosecutors do work for the public. And when 64% of the public can say, wait a second, I wanted sick people to be safe, then they're going to be calling up the prosecutor, they're going to be calling the judge, whether they are a patient or caregiver themselves or not. So that's what I am hoping for by being public, that it awakens people to what's going on.
Fine. So this is only the bond hearing, but there's no chance in this hearing really that the charges will be dropped.
I don't think so.
But there is a charge that your husband could go and be incarcerated.
Yes. Yep. There's three, I see three outcomes coming from this hearing. A, he can get his bond revoked, which would mean he would go to jail. B, the judge can say, okay, I'll give you a warning, but you may not use your medical marijuana from here on out. Or C, we are able to convince the judge that yes, it's necessary in this case, and he does allow it to continue.